okay?
Oh, good. How are you?
I'm all right, and you?
Good.
Okay, so how's everything going?
Um, okay, I guess.
It's okay. Um, okay, so how has everything been since our last session, since last week?
I still kind of feel the same.
Okay. All right. So,
I brought my homework.
oh, okay, that's great. We'll just go over that in a few more seconds. So I just kind of want to recap to make sure that everything is going well and kind of go over everything that we went over, a few things that we went over last week. So, when you came in last week, you explained to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, you explained to me that you were having issues dealing with your anger and that you wanted to know how to better control your anger when you're around kids. You also explained to me that you're mandated, so we need to make sure we stay in contact and make sure that you come to your sessions because I will have to report information to the court. And you're here because you're being charged with battery, but you never had anything on your record before. You was arrested for spanking your now ex-girlfriend's 2-year-old daughter on the behind, but she was fully clothed. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so last session.
It's the only way kids behave.
Okay. Well, there's other techniques that you can do to help so that the child can better behave, but we'll get to that in just a few minutes. Um, so, I sent you home with a homework assignment, and I'm glad to know that you completed it, and we'll start to go over
I
that.
kind of have to.
Well, yes, well, hopefully once we finish all 7 sessions, you'll be able to better handle the situation because as you mentioned last session, that you are kind of willing. You're sort of willing, even though you're mandated, you did say that this was something that you previously
Yeah,
would have
because
been
kids
interested
just get on my
in.
nerves, and I just
Right.
don't know why.
Right, okay. And that's okay. That's normal because there's plenty of people, even parents, because I know you currently don't have any children right now, but even parents come in and they come and see me because they need help and they want to learn how to better discipline their child. So we'll figure out better ways instead of spanking. So let's go over the homework assignment. So I wanted you to come up with 5 or more different thoughts that automatically come to your mind when you think of children. So let me know. So what was the first one that you came up with?
Kids are horrible.
Kids are horrible? Okay. Can you clarify that for me?
Well, they're horrible. Like, they scream, they yell, they poop on themselves, they pee on themselves. They cry for no reason sometimes, just throw tantrums, sometimes kick all over the floor. They don't listen to me. That's horrible.
Okay. Okay, so you said kids are horrible. And so what we're going to do is just try to think of positive thoughts. And I just want you to understand that most of the times that when children do something like crying or yelling or screaming, it's a reason behind it. So at this session today, we're going to focus on trying to figure out the meaning behind it. And we're going to use cognitive behavioral therapy, and that's just a huge word for changing the way you think to change the way you feel. So what was the second thing on your list that you came up with?
They cry too much.
They cry too much? Okay, so...
They always crying. It's like they can't be happy. They're kids, for God's sakes. They should be happy, but they cry.
Right, okay.
I want to cry that much.
Okay, so when a child cries, what do you think the need is?
They're just being bratty and just crying, just want attention.
Well, okay, you said they want attention, and that could be possible, because there's always a reason for something. And especially with kids, because a lot of times they're not able to communicate the way that you and I can communicate. So if they're crying, what I want you to do is to, instead of, because right now your automatic thought is they're being brats and that can be negative. So what we want to do is change that into a more positive thought. So what do you think is a positive reason why a child can be crying?
Well, I guess it can be like us, you know, like when we're hungry, we get cranky, so maybe the kid can be hungry and that's why they are crying. So yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, that's a great reason. It can simply be because they're hungry. And see, what I want to work with you on today is if you hear a child crying and if you think like, oh, they might be hungry, then maybe your reaction would be different and maybe you wouldn't be so upset and that can help you refrain from spanking the child.
Mhm.
Do you understand?
So looking for other options first.
Right. Because maybe if you change the way you think about it, and instead of thinking, oh, that child is just being a brat, then maybe what I want you to do is when you hear the child crying, maybe think like, oh, I wonder what he or she needs.
Mhm.
So that would be a great way to look at it instead of thinking negative towards it. Does that sound fine?
Yeah.
So it makes sense to you?
Yeah. It's like
Okay.
playing doctor or something, trying to
Playing
diagnose
doctor.
the kid.
Well, not necessarily. It will actually make you feel more relaxed instead of, getting so angry. Oh, why is this kid? You would feel more calm and relaxed if you think like, oh, maybe the child is just hungry, and then you can go and get a bottle, or you can go and
That's
get
true,
the
because
food.
they can't talk so clear yet, so that can be true.
Right. So, what do you think are some ways that you can find out if the child is the reason why the child is crying?
Well, I can start by communicating with them more and
That's a great idea.
yeah, talking to them to see what they might say or point at or show me why they're crying.
That's a great idea.
I'm just nervous because what if I can't tell and they keep crying?
Mhm. See, the best way when you see if a child is crying and they're by you, you can kind of kneel down on their level, and you can ask like, "Oh, what's wrong?" Maybe in a soft tone because you don't want to come off as you're yelling and you're angry, and then the child might be rebellious towards you.
Or
So
they might
maybe.
get more scared.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So if you talk in a calm tone and you just ask, and maybe you can figure it out, and then that will help you from being so angry, and then you can help the child out. So what was the next thing on your list?
They destroyed my home.
Okay, so clarify that for me. What do you mean by destroy your home?
They run around, and if they run around, they're playing too much. They might like spill something, break something. Cause like I have a lot of like family members that have kids, and they're
Mhm.
always coming to my house. And I always tell them like they better sit down and not say anything. Just be quiet and sit down. Like they just need to behave.
Okay.
My house is in a playground. The playground's down the street.
So how does that make you feel when they're running around and
It gets me angry because I know they're gonna destroy something.
okay. So where in order to well if you change the way you think about that, then maybe you wouldn't get so angry. So if the child is running around and jumping and throwing things, then maybe you can come up with different techniques, maybe to discipline them. Maybe, and that's what we'll go over in a few minutes, different discipline techniques. Or maybe you can find an area in your room, in your house, maybe a basement, or maybe a room where that they can play so that they wouldn't run around the entire house. How does that sound?
Yeah, or the backyard too, right?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah,
And then maybe you wouldn't get so angry.
I know, because then they wouldn't be running in between everyone in the living room and kitchen. So
Right.
yeah.
So how do you normally react when the children are running around the house?
Well, I just want to spank all of them, but you know, it's too many of them, so sometimes I just just yell and say sit down and be quiet. And they listen. They have no better choice to listen.
Okay. So now that you know that it's different reasons why kids run around and jump, because the reason for that, do you know what the reason behind that might be?
I think they're just bad and their parents should be doing something about it, but they don't. They let them run.
Okay, so now this goes back to the CBT, the cognitive behavioral therapy, where we change the way we think and change, which can possibly change the way we feel. So instead of thinking that the child is being bad, maybe because little children have a lot of energy and they don't have work or stressful jobs like adults, and they like to have fun, and they sometimes like to do things that like run around and jump and play. So instead of getting so angry and thinking that they're just bad, how do you think you can think about that instead by me explaining to you that they just have a lot of energy?
Well, I think what you're saying is that they just have a need to be active.
Right. Mhm.
So they have all that energy there, they just don't care where they release it at.
Right. So how common do you find a child that would just sit and not move or do anything?
Well, I know my kids ain't gonna be moving like that.
Okay. So, so if you just change the way you think about that and maybe come up with different ways that you can handle that situation, maybe you wouldn't be so angry with it, and that will call, then you wouldn't spank the children.
Yeah, maybe if they're not in my way and they're playing somewhere else, yeah.
Okay. Right. So what is the next thing that you have on your list?
They scream a lot.
The kids scream a lot.
Mhm.
Okay.
Sometimes they scream words that aren't even words, and they're just screaming
Okay.
for no reason. Why?
So what do you think the need is for that? The reason behind the behavior for the screaming?
Either they're just being annoying or they want attention.
Okay, well, the attention one sounds great. The annoying one might be a little negative thinking because most of the time, like I previously said, there's a reason behind it, and kids are not well at communicating. So if they need attention, what are some ways that you think you can provide that?
Maybe I should start asking them why they're screaming.
Mm-hmm.
What's going on?
That sounds good.
Did they get hurt or something? But they don't get hurt. They were just screaming.
Right.
So, but yeah, maybe I should just talk to them.
That'd be great because a lot of times when kids scream, they're like, that's a weird way of communicating and to let you know that they need attention. And maybe you can just talk to them and see what the problem is, and then maybe you can calm them down by putting on a movie, and then maybe the child wouldn't scream as much.
Right.
Does that sound helpful?
Mhm.
Do you think you're capable of doing that? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, is that everything on your list, or was there more?
No, there's a fifth one.
So, what is the fifth one?
Like kids don't listen to what I say. They always want to do what they want to do. I just don't think they're disciplined enough.
Okay, so so what do you mean they don't listen to what you say? Can you clarify that? Maybe give me an example.
Okay. So, pick up your toys,
Mhm.
or, bring me that, or, calm down, or when I just even try to tell them stuff, they don't do it anyways. So, that's very frustrating when kids don't listen to you and you're trying
Okay.
to make them do something.
Mhm. Okay, so I have some discipline tips for you. Do you want to go over it?
Yeah.
Okay, because I think that would be really helpful.
Because they don't listen, right? So that means they need some discipline.
Right, and see, usually you would discipline them by spanking, correct?
Yeah. Because if
Right.
they don't listen, they're going to get a whooping, and I bet you those kids going to listen after I whoop them.
Okay. So what we're going to work on is trying to come up with more, like positive, healthy tips as far as disciplining the child.
So there's more disciplining tips? Like there's more things out there?
Oh, yeah. There's other things that you can do besides
Because that's what my
spanking.
mama did to me, and I'm a good kid. I was a good kid.
Mm-hmm.
So I figured that's what I'm supposed to do too, and that's why I get so angry.
Oh, okay. Well, there are other ways, because that's not a healthy way. And I don't want you to get in any more trouble Because you're obviously mandated here because you was spanking.
Yeah, my mama should have gotten in trouble too.
Well.
She did it for years.
Oh, yeah. So as far as the disciplining tips, we can go over this list. And as you see, the first is there's 5 different tips.
Mhm.
And the first one says, understand the meaning behind the behavior. So do you think you know what that means?
So understand why they're doing the things they're doing.
Correct.
So why they're reacting to certain things.
Correct. And that's kind of what we went over with already, is to find the reason behind the behavior. So if like we just mentioned, if the child is crying, instead of getting so upset and spanking the child, you can kneel down and talk to the child and say, oh, okay, what exactly is wrong? Oh, do you want this? Or, okay, are you hungry? Are you sleepy? And you can try to figure it out. That'd be very helpful. Do you think you can do that?
Yeah, I'm gonna start doing that.
Okay, that'd be great. Okay, so the second tip would be to focus. It'd be great to focus on controlling yourself, and that would be really helpful. So maybe you can pause, like if the kids are running around screaming, you can pause and try to calm down first and say,
Count to like 100 in my head and then talk to them.
well, 100 might be a little extreme. You can count to maybe like 5, and then maybe you can ask yourself, like, what is the reason behind this behavior?
Mhm.
And that will help you react better. So focus on controlling yourself. That's what the second stage is. Do you think you can do that?
Yeah.
Okay. So the third stage is to be consistent with your expectations. Do you think you have an idea what that means?
Be consistent with my expectations. So, in a way, kind of generalize kids and keep my thoughts similar to kids. All kids kind of do the same behaviors. Or what does that mean?
Well, being consistent with your expectations, that's more of being consistent when you tell them to do something. You can it's just best to be consistent with it. So if you have it set where the kids can only play in the basement, do not give
keep
in,
their behaviors
right,
consistent.
keep their behavior
like,
consistent.
Okay.
And with your discipline, you need to be consistent. That works.
So don't
best.
change up. It's like just
Right.
keep it the same, like a routine, so they
Right.
know and I know and it stays good.
Right. That way it'd be great because you don't want to say, "Oh yes, you could play upstairs," and then they're playing upstairs, and now you're getting so angry and.
Yeah. So
Right.
make sure to keep it at one place, so then I know that for sure it's not gonna bother me.
Right.
And yeah, that
Right.
makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. So. Oh, and another great one, the step number 4 is to give attention to the behavior you like. So if it's a behavior that you're really, when they do good.
Praise them.
Right.
So they keep doing that.
Yes. That
Oh
is
my
great.
gosh, yeah, because then they'll like that.
Right? Instead of always disciplining.
Mhm.
So what do you think about that?
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna throw a party when they're good.
Yeah, that's good. Even if it's something as simple as a sticker, kids love that. You
Mhm.
know, stuff like that will make them feel.
Oh yeah, I have seen those like discipline charts or like good behavior charts with stickers. So yeah,
Right.
maybe I should even get one of those at my house.
Yeah, that would be great. That would be great. Okay, so this session is starting to come to an end.
Mhm.
So before we dismiss, what I would like to do is to give you more homework. How did you like the homework? Did you think that was well?
Yeah, but I just did negative things on it.
Well, that's fine because that's what I asked you to do. So
Mhm.
that was great. I wanted you to come up with your automatic thoughts, and that's okay if they wasn't positive because that's what we're here for, to work on it and to get you there.
Mhm.
I don't expect you to think positive about the situation already.
Okay.
That it's a work in progress, so it's okay.
Yeah, you gave me
did-
a whole bunch of tips.
Right, and you did really well. Okay. So what I want you to do for next session, I want you to I want you to get a sheet of paper, and I want you to write down, put 3 columns on a sheet of paper, and I want you to come up with a few of the actions that you experience at home, meaning that if you're by a crying child, I want you to write down in one column action, the next column need, and the next column I want you to write reaction. And I want you to number it.
Okay, so what was going on, what they needed, and what I did.
Right, that's exactly what I'm saying. So I'll just give you a quick example before we dismiss. So let's just say number 1, the action is crying, that the child was crying. So in the next column, I want you to put the need. So let's just say the need was the child wanted their mommy. And you put, so in the need you would put, I want my mommy. So I want you to figure out the need of the child. And then in the reaction column, you could just write what you did. So you can put something like, oh, well, I talked to the child and I told the child, well, we can call your mommy and see how long it would take for your mommy to get here.
Okay.
And I want you to just keep doing that for every situation that every time you're around a child that's crying or screaming, or do it sound like you can do that? Okay, so that would be great.
Yeah, I can start using some of these tips.
Okay, that would be great. Well, it was nice seeing you today.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll see you next week or something.
Okay, all right. See you later.
Okay, bye.
Have a good day now.